So this is me reading my blog entitled Rise as the Whole Damn Fire. I delivered a talk last week where I spoke more openly than I ever have before about some of the challenges I've faced around my hip dysplasia, body image and depression, and how they've played a part in shaping my business today. It was tough to share some of it, but thankfully my FAB network community are amazing and I knew it would be a safe space. It's Mental Health Awareness Week, and despite things improving, some people still feel like they can't be open. So I tell these stories not because I want people to feel sorry for me, but so they get an idea of who I am and why I do what I do. And it might be just what someone who is struggling needs to read. So here's a truncated version of the talk. 10 years ago, I worked in a prison. I can't say that I'd ever been a burning ambition, and my actual ambition all through school was to become a special effects makeup artist. Sadly, those dreams were shattered as the reality of having a defective hip joint from birth hit hard. Imagine being told you need a total hip replacement at 19. It's 1966 and I'm learning to walk. My granddad notices that I'm walking funny. Soon after that, I'm in a plaster cast from my armpit to my ankle. My legs spread out like a frog and I'm diagnosed with developmental dysplasia of the hip. A few years later, aged 8, the nasty purple scars from more surgery left me feeling very self-conscious, and that was when I first became aware of being different to the other children. Age 13, I had an experience of being body shamed when the pretty girl's mum told me that she thought I'd be able to get a boyfriend just like Susan if I lost a little bit of weight. So age 19, I'm back on the operating table and they need to remove the metal plate that's been in my leg since I was 3 as it was causing problems. This surgery was aborted due to complications. It was at this point that my makeup artist dreams were shattered and I was told that I needed a hip replacement, but it would have to wait. I turned my attention to this more sedentary profession of textiles design. And I leave home, fully embrace student life, and on graduating from Loughborough University, snag myself a coveted design job and, eventually, a serious boyfriend. Life is good. Until I started with bad pain again and needing a walking stick in your late 20s when all you want to do is dance and party is the pit. So I see a consultant, that metal plate must come out. This time the surgery is not aborted and instead the heavy-handed medics accidentally broke my femur on the operating table. Around the same time, I secured a full-time lecturing job, which had a 140-mile commute every day. And it was tiring, but it was doable. I love the work and the pay is good, so it was worth it. I spent several hours a day on the M1. We got a mortgage, made plans to marry and start a family, and I'm in my early 30s by now. My body clock is ticking and it feels like it's the right time. A few weeks before the wedding, I'm driving home to work with another couple of motorway junctions to go when I lose control of my car. I couldn't quite work out what was happening initially, but quickly realised I'd been hit by the lorry that I was overtaking. And this trauma led me to be diagnosed with clinical depression. And I became a nervous wreck, anxious, jittery, unable to make even the simplest of decisions. The wedding went ahead as planned though, and eventually I went back to work. That was until 6 months after the lorry incident, I was involved in another accident in the same spot of the motorway. This time I was the third car amid a 6-car pile-up. Again, I walked away physically unharmed apart from whiplash, but the toll on my mental health was to be long-standing. With all the rubbish I'd been through, you can imagine my delight as I fell pregnant. I was not so delighted to gain 5 stone during the pregnancy, having already been conscious of my weight since my early teens. Nor was I so happy with the unreasonable boss making demands during maternity leave. And rather than contacting my union rep, I somehow made this impulsive, irrational, baby brain decision to walk away from my well-paid lecturing job before my maternity leave was over. Chief breadwinner no more, a new baby to look after, and then my husband gets made redundant twice in a 6-month period. What now? I decided to join the world of party plan, and I absolutely love it. I'm getting paid for playing with makeup, and I'm around for every school run. I go to all the sports days. I'm there to see my son's stage debut and his first nativity, and it's the perfect job for me. I do really well, I win all kinds of awards, and I even meet Sir Richard Branson several times. But actually, I'm living a double life where I'm sticking my head in the sand. I'm relying heavily on credit cards. Our debts were rising. My mood was sinking lower and lower. We made the decision that another baby would be the answer to lift my spirits. However, adding to the family was not to be. My mental health spiraled even further downwards. My business and marriage started unraveling too. I had to keep going for the sake of my little boy, though. It was difficult to keep up the public facade. Privately, I felt very alone in my struggle. Depression wasn't something you were open about in those days. There was stigma attached. Meanwhile, my hip joint is steadily deteriorating and I have bone-on-bone pain. I'm literally limping through life. I come to the warped conclusion that everything in my life would be better if only I could lose some weight. I start to body shame myself. And so losing weight becomes something else to fail at and yet another stick to beat myself with. My self-image and self-worth hit an all-time low, and I can't even bring myself to look at my own body in the mirror. I resort to shapeless, slimming black, as my wardrobe is as dark as my mood. It was during a 3-week visit to Spain a few years later that I had time to take stock and gain clarity, and I made a few decisions that things had to change. On the return home, I looked for some teaching work, and this is where the prison comes in. So I throw everything into my work to suppress the unhappiness of my failing marriage and my self-hate for my body. Before long, I'm promoted twice, and I'm earning more than I've ever earned before, with 8 weeks paid holiday a year, fabulous pension scheme, and I start to rebuild my self-worth and confidence. Things begin to look up, and I finally have my hip replaced too. Pretty soon, though, the role as prison education manager was sucking the life out of me, and it was about unattainable targets, deeply ingrained blame culture. My only chance of creativity is when I doodle in my notepads during the endless meetings. I was so fed up, I felt trapped, but I couldn't afford to leave. I didn't feel like I had a choice. I'm incredibly unhappy, dreading going to work, a sick feeling in my stomach every night. My self-worth and confidence take a massive dip again. This job is just not me, and I'm completely a square peg in a round hole. Then in 2013, 2 things happened that completely tipped me over the edge, and I plummeted deeper than ever. I was the target of a very nasty, callous witch hunt, and my husband admitted that he didn't want to be with me anymore. He left. I've properly hit rock bottom now. Single parent, without a job. For the sake of my boy, I've got to get myself back up and dust myself down. I need to keep a roof over our heads, and I'm not prepared because I'm not prepared to lose our home as well. Despite these horrible, stressful circumstances, I had a tiny flicker of hope still left in me, and I recognised that this was my opportunity to reclaim my identity and take control of my future, to be a new and improved version of me. I decided to dress more creatively, loving colour and leopard print and sparkly glittery things. My weight becomes less of an issue once I feel better in my clothes. I discovered Reiki, the law of attraction, and I met more spiritual people than I'd ever known. I gained more inner peace and gratitude than I can ever remember. I realised it was important for me moving forward to have boundaries and protect myself. I specifically wanted rewarding work that made my heart sing, no nasty boss. So I set myself up in business. As I started to find myself, I also found my soulmate not long before my 50th birthday. I built my self-worth back up by doing voluntary work in our local Mind charity shop, styling the mannequins each week. I delivered makeup classes to cancer patients through the Look Good, Feel Better charity. I rented out my spare room through Airbnb, delivered beginners drawing classes around my kitchen table, took on part-time shop work, and did anything else I could to supplement my income whilst getting my colour and style business off the ground. I've been in business almost 9 years now, and I've established myself as a bit of a maverick, empowering women to proudly embrace their uniqueness and gain confidence through colour and style in their clothing and personal branding. I've raised over £12,000 for cancer charities in my mum's memory since 2017 by organising Swish's clothes swap events that, apart from being an amazing annual community event, also keep clothing out of landfill. I've been on local telly and radio. I've been a podcast guest many a time, spoke to countless groups over the past 9 years. Became a published author in 2021, firstly in an anthology, and then my own book, Project FAB, later that year. Lastly, I founded the FAB Network in 2022 when I couldn't find the Goldilocks community I was craving. I'm delighted that it's going from strength to strength, and I think we've got something really special going on here. I reckon I've managed to fit quite a lot into my 50s so far. But if you told me 10 years ago that I've done all this, I would have found it hard to believe. I wonder what's next. I'll leave you with this brilliant quote by Colette Worden. It's okay if you fall down and lose your spark. Just make sure that when you get back up, you rise as the whole damn fire. I love that. So please don't struggle. If your mental health is taking a battering, talk to someone, make time to look after yourself. Perhaps try Mind or the Samaritans. Thanks for listening.